aliens called for backup. Humanity sent something far worse. The Empire had ruled the Orion sector for 12,000 years. They were tall beings made of living crystal, and light passed through their bodies like sunlight through glass. They had conquered 7 species and built an empire across 300 star systems. They believed they were the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. They had never lost a war. When their scout ships found Earth, they laughed. The humans were so young. They had only been traveling through space for 300 years. They had been building empires when humans were still living in caves. But something about the humans worried the scouts. In just 3 centuries, the humans had spread to 47 worlds. They built ships faster than any species they had ever seen. And when the scouts looked at human history, they found something strange. The humans spent most of their existence fighting each other, war after war after war. They had weapons that could burn entire cities. They had killed billions of their own kind. The High Council decided these humans needed to be controlled before they became a problem. They sent their greatest fleet, 4,000 warships under the command of High Admiral, was old, even by standards. He had fought in 6 wars and never lost a battle. His body was made of dark blue crystal, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking ice. The fleet arrived at a place humans called Gate. It was a space station at the edge of human territory, expected the humans to run. Instead, 12 human ships came out to meet him. 12 ships against 4,000. Commander stood on the bridge of the carrier, indomitable, and watched the alien fleet fill her screen. She was 42 years old with short black hair and calm eyes. Her grandmother had survived the Jakarta collapse, when rising seas swallowed the city and 10 million people died in 1 week. Her father had died defending the Mars colonies from corporate raiders when was 16. She had joined the military the next day. Had seen war. She understood it in her bones, and she knew something that did not know: humans were not like other species. The communication screen flickered and his image appeared. His crystal face had no expression, but his voice carried amusement. "Small creatures," said, "the Empire claims this sector. You will surrender all colonies beyond your home system. You will submit to genetic cataloging. You will accept integration into the Empire as a client species. Do this, and you may live." Looked at her crew. They were young, most of them. Lieutenant at weapons was only 25. Ensign at communications had just finished training 3 months ago. They should have been scared. They were not. Smiled. "We decline," she said. Laughed. It was an ugly sound like wind chimes shattering. "You have 12 ships. I have 4,000. This is not a negotiation." "You are correct," said. "This is not a negotiation." She closed the channel and looked at her crew. "All ships, execute pattern Sigma. Show them what humans can do." The Battle of Gate lasted 6 minutes. The human ships did not fight like anything they had ever seen. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, jumping in and out of normal space, appearing behind enemy lines and disappearing before they could respond. Their weapons were strange things that bent space itself, crushing ships into balls of twisted metal without ever touching them. But the weapons were not the most frightening thing. The most frightening thing was the pilots. Watched in horror as human ships flew directly into the heart of his fleet, taking damage that should have killed them, and kept fighting. One human destroyer, its hull torn open and burning, rammed directly into a command ship. Just before impact, sensors picked up a transmission from the destroyer. The human crew was laughing. They were laughing. Tried to rally his fleet, but panic had already spread. They had never faced an enemy like this. They had fought species that were stronger, species that had better technology, species that were more numerous. But they had never fought a species that seemed to enjoy war, that charged into death with smiles on their faces. When ship appeared directly in front of his flagship, he finally understood. The humans were not brave despite their fear. They were not fighting because they had no choice. They were fighting because this was what they were built for. 300,000 years of evolution had created a species perfectly designed for war. "Fire everything," commanded. His flagship launched every weapon it had: missiles, energy beams, gravity bombs. The space around ship filled with fire. When the fire cleared, the human carrier was still there. Its shields flickered but held. And's voice came through the communication channel, calm and almost gentle. "My grandmother survived a flood that killed 10 million people," said. "My father died fighting for a colony that nobody thought was worth saving. I grew up learning that survival is not given, it is taken. You want to know what humans are? We are the species that refuse to die, again and again and again." The Indomitable fired once. The beam that came from its main cannon was something new, something that had never seen. It did not just destroy its flagship, it erased it. One moment the massive ship was there. The next moment it was gone, scattered into atoms across 1,000 kilometers of space. Died without understanding what had killed him. The battle ended soon after. The remaining ships tried to flee, but the humans did not let them go easily. When it was over, 1,700 ships drifted dead in space. The humans had lost 2 vessels. 2. Commander stood on her bridge and felt no joy. She had done her duty. She had protected her people. But she knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning. "Send a message to Earth Command," she told Ensign. "Tell them the attacked. Tell them we won. And tell them to prepare. These aliens have friends. They will come." The surviving ships scattered across the sector, carrying tales of what they had seen. They spoke of weapons that broke the laws of physics. They spoke of human pilots who flew suicide missions while laughing. They spoke of a species that did not fight to survive but seemed to fight because they loved it. The stories spread from system to system, species to species. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the Empire sent a distress signal to the Galactic Concord. This was an alliance of the 30 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had kept peace for. They had crushed every threat that arose. The message was simple: we have found something dangerous. We need help. On Earth, Admiral read the intelligence reports and sighed. She was 67 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had hoped to retire next year. She had hoped to spend her remaining years fishing and playing with her. But she had always known this day would come. Humanity had always known. From the moment they first looked up at the stars, they knew they would eventually meet something out there. And they knew that meeting might not be friendly. Picked up her phone and made a call. "Wake up Project Prometheus," she said. "Wake up all of them. We are going to need everything we have." Far away in the cold darkness beyond Pluto, something ancient stirred in its sleep. It had been waiting for a very long time. And now, finally, the species it had been waiting for was ready. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Aliens called for backup. Humanity sent something far worse. The Galactic Concord had not called an emergency meeting in 3,000 years. The last time was when a black hole threatened to swallow an entire sector. Before that, it was when a machine civilization tried to convert all organic life into data. These were the only threats serious enough to bring 30 civilizations together. Now they gathered again, and the reason was humanity. Nexus Prime was the oldest space station in the galaxy. It floated at the center of known space, a neutral ground where all species could meet. The station was the size of a small moon, built from metals that no longer existed anywhere else. Inside its great hall, representatives from 30 civilizations took their seats. They were strange and wonderful beings. They were creatures of pure energy, held together by magnetic fields that hummed with power. There were massive insects, each one the size of a truck, with armor that could stop most weapons. There were shapeless things that flowed like water and spoke by changing color. There were plants that had learned to think and move, their bodies made of vines and flowers. All of them had one thing in common: they were afraid. The representative told the story of Sgate. He showed recordings of the battle, and the hall fell silent. They watched human ships move in impossible ways. They watched the fleet die in minutes. They watched a human crew laugh as they flew into certain death. "These humans are monsters," they said. "They must be stopped before they spread." High Arbiter floated at the center of the hall. He was the oldest being in the Concord, a cloud of golden energy that had existed for 50,000 years. His voice echoed in every mind. "We will hear from the humans," said. "They have sent an ambassador." The doors opened, and a single human walked in. His name was. He was 63 years old with a round face and gentle eyes. He walked slowly because his knees hurt from age. He wore a simple gray suit, nothing fancy. In one hand he carried a small box. The aliens expected a warrior. They expected someone tall and strong, someone with cold eyes and a dangerous smile. What they got was a man who looked like he should be teaching children or tending a garden. Bowed politely to the assembly. Then he opened his box and began passing out small wrapped packages. "Rice cakes," he said cheerfully. "My wife made them. Please try one. They are very good." The representative, a being named High Admiral, made a sound of disgust. "We did not come here for snacks, human. We came to judge your species for crimes against the Conquered." Nodded, still smiling. "Of course, but we might be here for a while. It is always better to discuss serious things with a full stomach." He finished passing out the rice cakes, then took his seat. Several aliens actually tasted the treats. The ambassador's flowers changed color with pleasure. "Your species has committed acts of war against the Empire," said. "You destroyed 1,700 ships and killed millions. What do you have to say?" Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. "They came to our space with 4,000 warships," he said. "They demanded that we surrender our colonies. They demanded that we submit to genetic cataloging, which I am told is usually followed by forced breeding programs. They told us we would become a client species, which is a polite way of saying slaves." He looked around the hall. "What would you have done? If someone came to your home with an army and told you to give up your freedom or die, would you fight, or would you kneel?" "You should have contacted the Conquered," the representative said. "We would have negotiated." "You did not offer negotiation," said. "You offered surrender. Those are different things." High Admiral leaned forward, his massive insect body creaking. "Enough talk. The Conquered demands that humanity stand down, disarm your fleets, accept Conquered supervision. Do this and we will show mercy. And if we refuse, then we will send the combined armada, 15,000 ships from 12 species, the largest military force ever assembled. We will crush you." Nodded slowly. He did not look scared. He did not look angry. He looked sad. "May I tell you a story?" he asked. "We do not want stories," said. "We want your surrender." "Please," said. "It will help you understand." Made a gesture of permission. "Speak." Stood and walked to the center of the hall. He moved slowly, like a man carrying a heavy weight. 200 years ago, he began, humanity had a war. We called it the 30 Days War. It was between Earth and the Mars Confederation, a fight over resources and power. In 1 month, we killed 800 million of our own people. The hall went completely silent. 800 million, repeated. That is more than the entire population of most species in this room. We did this to ourselves. We did this to our own brothers and sisters. He reached into his pocket and placed a small data chip on the table. This contains our history, our real history, not the version we tell children, but the truth, the wars, the genocides, the times we nearly destroyed ourselves. We have spent 300,000 years learning how to kill, first with stones, then with metal, then with fire, then with atoms. Every generation invented new ways to end life. The aliens stared at him. Some looked sick. Others looked confused. They had never heard a species describe itself this way. You have been peaceful for 12,000 years, continued. You have forgotten what war means, but we never had that luxury. We have been fighting since before we could write. Every weapon we have, we built first to use on each other. Your ships, your armor, your technology, these are tools built for peace and then adapted for war. Our tools were built for war from the beginning. He pointed at the recording of the battle still floating in the air. You saw 12 of our ships destroy 4,000 of the. Do you know why we only sent 12? Because that was the patrol fleet in the area. That was not our navy. Our actual navy numbers 60,000 vessels, and every single human aboard those ships has grown up in a culture that has been perfecting war for longer than most species have existed. High Admiral stood, his armor rattling. You think this scares us? We have fought wars too. We have conquered worlds. Looked at him with something like pity. You have fought wars to gain territory. You have fought wars for resources. You have fought wars for pride. But have you ever fought a war because you were going to die if you did not win? Have you ever looked at your enemy and known that losing meant your entire species would be erased? He shook his head. That is what you are asking us to accept. Surrender means slavery. Slavery means death, maybe not today, but eventually. And humans do not accept death. We fight it. We have always fought it. When the floods came, we built boats. When the ice came, we built fires. When our own sun threatened to kill us, we built ships and left. We survive. That is what we do. That is all we have ever done. Walked back to his seat. The conquered may send its armada. We will not attack first, but we will not surrender. We do not know how. It is simply not in our nature. The hall was quiet for a long time. Then High Arbiter spoke. You are asking us to let a species of warriors roam free in the galaxy. How can we trust you? Smiled. I was a kindergarten teacher before I became a diplomat. I spent 30 years teaching 5-year-olds to share and be kind. Humans are not just warriors. We are also artists, builders, dreamers. We want peace. We truly do, but we will not buy peace with chains. He bowed again. Send your armada if you must, but know this, when it arrives it will not find monsters waiting. It will find humans, and humans are far more dangerous than monsters, because monsters act on instinct. Humans act on choice, and we choose to survive. The vote was held 1 hour later. 28 species voted to send the combined armada. 2 voted against. One of those was the who had very much enjoyed the rice cakes. On Earth, Admiral received the news. She was eating breakfast with her when her phone buzzed. She read the message, sighed, and kissed her goodbye. Where are you going, grandmother? Her youngest asked. Smiled. To work. Some people are coming to visit, and I need to make sure we are ready to welcome them properly. She walked out the door, got in her car, and drove toward the command center. Behind her, the sun rose over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. War was coming, but Admiral was not worried. She had something the conquered did not know about, something old, something powerful. Something that had been waiting for this moment for a very, very long time. Aliens called for backup. Humanity sent something far worse. Pluto was cold, colder than anywhere else in the solar system. The sun was just a bright dot in the sky, giving no warmth at all. Nothing could live there. Nothing should be there. But deep beneath the frozen surface, in a facility that did not appear on any map, humanity kept its greatest secret. Doctor had spent 40 years of her life in this place. She was 73 now, with white hair and hands that shook slightly when she was tired. She had given up everything for this job. She had never married. She had never had children. Her whole life was the artifact. The artifact had been found in Antarctica in 2089, buried under 3 kilometers of ice. His great-great-grandmother had been part of the team that dug it out. The thing was not natural. It was not from Earth. It was older than the solar system itself, older than the sun. Carbon dating did not work on it because it was not made of carbon. It was not made of anything that humans could identify. At first they thought it was a weapon. Then they thought it was a computer. Then they thought it was a ship. Now, after 200 years of study, they knew what it really was. It was a seed. Stood in front of the artifact and watched it pulse with light. For most of her life, it had been dark and silent. She had poked it, scanned it, talked to it, even screamed at it once when she was young and frustrated. It never responded. It just sat there, waiting. But now it was awake. The light came from somewhere inside the artifact, a soft blue glow that moved like breathing. Could feel something in her mind, like a voice just beyond hearing. The artifact was aware of her. It was watching her. Her phone rang. She answered it without looking away from the artifact. It was Admiral's voice, tired and worried. The Conquered voted. They are sending the combined armada, 15,000 ships. Was quiet for a moment. How long until they arrive? 3 weeks, maybe less. Our Navy cannot stop 15,000 ships. I know, paused. That is why I am calling. Is it ready? Looked at the artifact. The blue light pulsed faster, as if it could hear the conversation. Maybe it could. They had never figured out exactly what it could and could not do. It woke up on its own, said, 2 days ago, right when the fleet attacked, almost like it knew. Can you control it? Almost laughed. Control it? Admiral, we do not even know what it is. Not really. We know it is old. We know it was made by something that existed before our galaxy formed. We know it has been waiting for something, but we do not know what it wants or what it will do. Then what do you know? Thought about all the years of research, all the tests and theories and failed experiments, all the scientists who had come before her, each one adding a small piece to the puzzle. I know it was left here on purpose, she said slowly. I know it was meant to be found by a species like us, young, aggressive, creative, and I know it has some kind of purpose, something it wants to do, but it has been waiting for us to be ready. Ready for what? The artifact's light suddenly flared bright, filling the entire chamber. Stumbled backward, shielding her eyes. When the light faded, something had changed. The artifact was opening. It unfolded like a flower made of light and geometry, each petal a shape that hurt to look at directly. From inside came something that was not quite solid and not quite energy. It existed in spaces that human eyes were not designed to see. Looking at it was like looking at a dream while awake. What is happening? Demanded through the phone. Could not answer. She was frozen, staring at the thing that emerged from the artifact. It had no face, but she could feel it looking at her. It had no mouth, but she could hear it speaking, not with sound but directly into her thoughts. I am what your ancestors called a shepherd, it said. I was made by the first ones, long before your son was born. My purpose is to find young species and give them a choice. A choice, whispered. Evolve or perish. Every species reaches a point where they must change or die. Most species never reach this point. They destroy themselves first. But you, humanity, you have survived. You have walked through fire again and again and come out stronger. You are ready. The shepherd moved closer and felt its attention focus on her like a spotlight. She could feel it reading her mind, her memories, her entire life in a single instant. I offer you transcendence, the shepherd said, the knowledge to leave your physical bodies behind, to become beings of pure thought free from pain and death. This is what I offered every species that came before you, most accepted. They became like me, existing beyond time and space. His phone buzzed. She looked down and saw that Admiral had transferred to video call. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, old and tired but with eyes like steel. I heard everything, said. Ask it what happens if we refuse. Asked. The shepherd was silent for a long moment. Those who refuse are given nothing. They continue as they were. Most die eventually, destroyed by enemies or by themselves. A few survive and grow, but none have ever refused who were worthy of the offer. His face was hard. Then we will be the first. The shepherd turned its attention to the phone, to the old woman on the screen. You do not wish to become gods. No, said, we do not want to become gods. We do not want to leave our bodies or transcend our nature. We are humans, flawed, limited, mortal humans, and that is enough. You face an armada that will destroy you. Maybe, but even if we die, we will die as ourselves. We will not trade our humanity for survival. That is not who we are. The shepherd was quiet, could feel it thinking, processing this response. In 1 billion years of existence, it had never heard these words before. Remarkable, it finally said. You choose death over transcendence. You choose limitation over infinite power. Why? Smiled, and for a moment she did not look tired anymore. She looked fierce. Because power without limits is not power, it is emptiness. We are strong because we struggle. We are brave because we feel fear. We love because we know we will die. Take those things away and what is left? A God with nothing to protect, nothing to fight for, nothing to love. That is not life. That is just existence. The shepherd was silent for a very long time, could feel something changing in its ancient mind, something that had not changed in 1 billion years. Then, for the first time since the universe was young, the shepherd laughed. It was a strange sound, like music and thunder mixed together. It filled the chamber and echoed off the walls, and somehow it did not seem threatening. It seemed delighted. In all my years, the shepherd said, in all the species I have tested, I have never found one like you. Others accepted transcendence because they feared death. Others refused because they were too stupid to understand the offer. But you understand and you refuse anyway, not from fear, not from ignorance, from principle. It moved closer to the image on the screen. You have surprised me, human. That is not easy to do, so I will make a different offer. What offer? I cannot make you gods. You have refused that gift and I respect your choice, but I can give you something else. Knowledge, power, tools to fight your enemies without losing who you are. You will remain human with all your limits and flaws, but you will be humans with my help. Looked at the shepherd. For 40 years she had studied this thing, trying to understand it. Now she finally did. It was not a weapon. It was not a computer. It was a teacher. It had been waiting all this time for a student worthy of its lessons. What do we have to do? Asked. The shepherd's light pulsed warm and bright. You have already done it. You have proven yourselves. Now come and let me show you what humans can become, not gods but something better, something that has never existed before. Stepped forward into the light, and the next phase of human evolution began. Aliens called for backup. Humanity sent something far worse. The combined armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system on a Tuesday morning. 15,000 ships from 12 different species, each one bristling with weapons. They came in formation, spreading across space like a net designed to catch everything inside it. The fleet was so large that it blocked out the stars behind it. High Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crusher of Worlds. He was the largest of his species, a creature of black armor and razor-sharp limbs. He had conquered 17 planets in his career. He had never lost a battle. He did not intend to start now. Scan the system, he ordered. Find their fleet. His sensors officer, a small nervous creature covered in scales, worked the controls. Then he made a sound of confusion. Admiral, I'm not detecting any large ships, only small craft and orbital stations. His mandibles clicked with annoyance. Impossible, they have 60,000 ships. Where are they hiding? I do not know, Admiral, but there is something else. What? There is a single life form directly ahead, floating in space. No ship, no suit, just a person. Moved to the viewing screen and zoomed in. What he saw made his blood run cold. It was a human, a woman floating in the vacuum of space as if it were water. She wore simple clothes, a gray shirt, dark pants, no helmet, no protection of any kind. Her eyes were closed and her black hair drifted around her face like seaweed. She should have been dead. The cold of space alone should have frozen her solid in seconds, but she was alive. She was breathing. and she was smiling. Her name was, 3 weeks ago she had been a marine biologist studying fish in the Pacific Ocean. Then Admiral had called her, along with 900 other volunteers. They had gone to Pluto. They had met the shepherd, and they had become something new. Opened her eyes. They were not human eyes anymore. They glowed with soft blue light, the same light as the shepherd. She could see things now that no human had ever seen. She could see the 17 dimensions that reality was built on. She could see the quantum foam that existed beneath everything. She could see the fear radiating from the alien flagship like heat from a fire. "Hello," she said, and her voice carried through space without any technology. It simply existed, heard by every being in the Armada. "My name is, I am here to give you a warning." Grab the communication controls. "Human, what trick is this? What are you?" "I am still human," said, "but I am also something more. I am the first of a new kind. There are 900 others like me. We are behind you, beside you, all around you. You cannot see us because we exist in dimensions your eyes cannot detect." Checked his sensors, they showed nothing, but somehow he believed her. "The Galactic Conquered sent you to conquer us," continued. "We understand. You are afraid of what we might become, but we are not your enemies. We do not want war. We never wanted war. We only want to live in peace." "Then surrender," said. "Accept Conquered supervision. There does not have to be violence." Smile faded. "You ask us to give up our freedom. That is something we cannot do, so I will make a different offer. Turn around. Go home. Tell your leaders that humanity wishes only peace, but we will not accept chains. Do this and no one needs to die today." Laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "You think one woman can stop 15,000 ships? You are insane." "I am not alone." The space behind rippled, and suddenly they were visible, 900 humans floating in the void, each one glowing with the same blue light. They were young and old, men and women, people who had been teachers and farmers and engineers and artists. Now they were something else. Now they were shepherded. They did not carry weapons. They did not need to. Felt fear for the first time in his life. Real fear, the kind that makes you want to run. But he was a warrior. He had never run from anything. "All ships," he commanded, "open fire." The Armada launched everything it had. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams lit up the darkness. Gravity bombs warped reality itself. The combined firepower of 12 civilizations focused on 900 humans floating in the void. The shepherded did not move. Raised her hand and the weapon stopped. Not slowed down, not redirected. Stopped. Thousands of missiles hung frozen in space. Energy beams curved around the humans like water around stones. Gravity bombs collapsed in on themselves and vanished. "We did not want this," said sadly. "Please turn around, this is your last chance." Stared at the screen. His mandibles trembled, but his pride would not let him retreat. "Again," he ordered, "keep firing." The Armada fired again, and again, and again. Each time the weapons were stopped, redirected, or simply erased from existence. The shepherded humans did not attack. They simply defended, waiting for the aliens to run out of ammunition or courage. But would not stop. He kept ordering attacks, his voice growing more desperate with each failure. Finally, closed her eyes and made a decision. "Enough," she said. The shepherded moved. They did not fly through space. They simply appeared where they wanted to be, sliding between dimensions like ghosts through walls. They spread through the Armada, 1 or 2 humans for each ship. And then they began to take the ships apart. Not destroy them, take them apart. Molecule by molecule, piece by piece, the massive warships dissolved into clouds of atoms. The shepherded were careful, so careful. They separated the living beings from their ships first, placing them gently in escape pods before dismantling the vessels around them. It was like watching someone peel fruit. The hull would separate from the frame. The frame would separate from the engines. The engines would dissolve into their component parts, all of it happening silently, peacefully, with no explosions and no fire. In 47 minutes, the combined armada was gone. 15,000 ships reduced to 15,000 clouds of loose atoms, but not a single life was lost. Every crew member, every soldier, every admiral and captain and engineer floated in escape pods, alive and unharmed. Appeared on escape pod. She phased through the wall as if it was not there and stood before him, glowing softly in the dim light. "I am sorry," she said. "We tried to warn you." Could not speak. His entire worldview had collapsed. Everything he believed about war, about power, about strength, it was all meaningless now. The humans had not just defeated his armada. They had made it irrelevant. "Go home," said. "Tell them what you saw. Tell them that humanity does not want war. We want neighbors. We want friends, but we will not be slaves. We will not be conquered. And now we cannot be defeated." She smiled, and for a moment she looked like what she used to be, a young woman who loved the ocean and fish and simple things. Then she was gone, stepping sideways into a dimension could not see. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Conquered watched recordings of the battle. The chamber was silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Ambassador sat in his usual seat, eating another rice cake. He did not look smug or triumphant. He looked sad. "We tried to tell you," he said quietly. "We did not want to fight, but you would not listen." High Arbiter flickered with agitation. "What are you? What have you become?" "We are still human," said. "We have just learned some new things. The universe is very old, Arbiter, and there are beings in it who have been watching, waiting for species like us to come along. They wanted to see if we were worthy." "Worthy of what?" Smiled. "Of being their students, their partners, maybe someday their friends." He stood up and bowed politely. "The humans propose peace. Real peace between equals, no conquest, no slavery, no supervision, just neighbors living side by side. Will you accept?" The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Conquered accepted peace. Back on Earth, Admiral watched the news reports. The world was celebrating. People were dancing in the streets, crying with relief, holding each other tight. They had been so afraid, and now the fear was over. Did not celebrate. She sat alone in her office, looking out the window at the sunset. Appeared beside her, stepping out of thin air. "It is done," said. "They will not bother us again." Nodded. "How do you feel?" Thought about it. "The same, different. I can see so much more now. I can do things I never imagined, but I still like the same food. I still miss my family. I still cry at sad movies." She laughed softly. "I am still me, just more." "Good," said. "That is what matters. Power is nothing without the person behind it." They stood together in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems, new questions about humanity's place in the universe. But tonight they had peace. And that was enough. Aliens called for backup. Humanity sent something far worse. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Saul, and the galaxy was different. The Empire was the first to change. After their defeat at Sgate and the humiliation of the combined armada, they expected the humans to come with revenge. They expected fire and death and slavery, all the things they would have done to a defeated enemy. Instead, the humans sent engineers. Commander landed on the with 300 specialists. They came with tools, not weapons. They came with food, not demands. When the leaders asked what the humans wanted, smiled and said, "We want to help you rebuild." They did not understand. This was not how war worked. Winners took, winners punished, winners made the losers pay. But just kept smiling. "We are not at war anymore. We are neighbors, and good neighbors help each other." The rebuilding took months. Human engineers worked beside workers, sharing techniques and ideas. Human doctors treated who had been injured in the battle. Human chefs learned to cook food, and chefs learned to make coffee. By the end of the year, something strange had happened. The two species had become friends. His daughter, a young named Myra, spent a lot of time with Commander. At first, she wanted to hate the human who had killed her father, but never apologized for the battle. She never pretended it had not happened. "Your father was a warrior," said one day. "He died fighting for his people. I respect that. If our positions were reversed, I would have done the same." Myra's crystal face shifted color, showing confusion. "But you won. You could have destroyed us." Winning a battle does not mean you have to destroy your enemy. Sometimes winning means finding a way to stop fighting. Looked up at the sky, where human and ships now flew together on joint patrols. "Your father thought we were monsters. Maybe we were once, but we are trying to be something better." On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Concord dissolved and reformed as the Galactic Coalition. The old structure had been based on fear and control. The new one was based on cooperation and choice. No species was forced to join. No species was punished for leaving. Ambassador was elected the first speaker of the coalition. The vote was not even close. Every species wanted the quiet man with the rice cakes to lead them. "I do not understand," told his wife when he got home. "I am not a politician. I am not a general. I was a kindergarten teacher." His wife laughed and handed him a cup of tea. "That is exactly why they chose you. You know how to make people share and play nicely. That is exactly what the galaxy needs." Thought about this for a long time. Then he went back to Nexus Prime and did exactly what he had always done. He listened to everyone. He brought snacks to every meeting, and he never raised his voice, even when the discussions got heated. Slowly, the coalition began to work. Old enemies started talking. Ancient feuds were set aside. Trade routes opened between species that had been isolated for centuries. It was not perfect. Nothing was perfect, but it was better than before. The shepherd remained on Pluto, watching everything with patient interest. Doctor visited it often, bringing reports about the galaxy and asking endless questions. The ancient being seemed to enjoy her company. "Why did you help us?" asked one day. "You offered transcendence to every species you found. Most of them accepted, but when we refused, you helped us anyway. Why?" The shepherd was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice was softer than usual. "In a billion years of searching," it said, "I found countless species capable of becoming gods. They had the intelligence. They had the potential. But they all accepted my offer because they were running away from something. They wanted to escape pain, escape death, escape the hard work of living." It pulsed with warm light. "But you did not run. When I offered you escape, you said no. You said you wanted to stay human with all your limits and flaws. You said you would rather die as yourselves than live forever as something else." "Is that rare?" asked. "I have never seen it before. Not once. Every species I found was trying to become more than they were. You were the first to say that you were enough, that you did not need to become gods to be worthy." The shepherd moved closer too, and she felt its attention focus on her like sunlight through a lens. "That is why I helped you. Not because you were strong or smart or dangerous. Those things are common. I helped you because you surprised me, because you showed me something new. In a billion years of existence, that is the rarest gift anyone can give." Smiled. "We are good at surprising people." "Yes," the shepherd agreed, "you are." The shepherded humans became guardians rather than warriors. There were over 2,000 of them now, volunteers who had merged with the ancient technology and become something new. They patrolled the borders of known space, not to conquer but to protect. When new species achieved space travel for the first time, a shepherded was often the first being they met. This was intentional. Humanity wanted the galaxy to know that there were people out there watching, caring, ready to help. Became one of the most active shepherded. She traveled farther than any human had ever gone, exploring regions of space where no intelligent life had ever visited. She found dead worlds and dying stars, ancient ruins and new wonders. But she always came back to Earth. Admiral had retired to a small house on the coast of Korea. She spent her days fishing and teaching her to play games. When reporters asked her about the battle that had changed history, she just shrugged. "We did what humans always do," she said. "We survived, and then we made friends." Visited her often, appearing out of thin air with presents from distant worlds. Despite her transcendence, she still laughed at bad jokes. She still cried during sad movies. She still ate too much at dinner and complained about feeling full afterward. "Do you ever regret it?" asked her once, "becoming what you are?" Thought about it. She could see dimensions that could not imagine. She could travel between stars in moments. She would live for thousands of years, maybe longer. But she still felt the sun on her face and smiled. She still tasted food and laughed at jokes. She still loved the people she had always loved. "No," she said finally. "I do not regret it. I am still me. I am still human. I just have more time now to learn and grow and help." Nodded satisfied. "Good, because that is what matters, not power, not knowledge, not living forever. What matters is staying who you are." The galaxy continued to change. New alliances formed. Old wounds healed. Humans spread further and further from Earth, carrying their strange mix of violence and kindness wherever they went. They built hospitals on war-torn worlds. They sent teachers to species that had never had schools. They shared their technology freely, asking nothing in return except friendship. And slowly, the galaxy began to understand what the shepherd had seen. Humanity was not dangerous because of their weapons or their history of war. They were dangerous because they never gave up. They never stopped trying to be better. They had crawled up from the mud, survived their own worst impulses, and reached for the stars with bloodied hands. But those hands could also heal. Those hands could build. Those hands could reach out in friendship to former enemies. The aliens had called for backup against humanity. They expected monsters. What they got was neighbors. Difficult neighbors, sometimes. Stubborn neighbors who refused to give up or back down. Neighbors who would fight to the last breath to protect what they loved. But also neighbors who brought rice cakes to meetings. Neighbors who helped rebuild after battles. Neighbors who saw the best in everyone, even former enemies. The galaxy was a big place, cold and dark and full of dangers, but with humanity in it, it felt a little smaller, a little warmer, a little more like home. And somewhere on Pluto, the shepherd watched it all and smiled. In 1 billion years of existence, it had finally found what it was looking for. Not a species to transcend. A species to admire. A species that proved that being mortal, being limited, being human was not a weakness. It was the greatest strength of all.